And welcome to another Energy Facts Chats with me, JP Warren, and my boy from California, Michael Umbro, or you can call him Mike for short. This is our 8th episode, and I'm pretty excited about our guest today. You can see right there on the bottom of the screen. Mike, why don't you go ahead and introduce our guest, and we're going to explain why this is why we're excited about this conversation today.
Yeah, absolutely. We're going international today with my boy Yannick Wirtz. We're going global.
Go global, baby.
We're going big. So Yannick and I met through our contract geologist who we use out at our lease. We met, probably early 2021 or maybe sooner or further back, but we met on a Zoom, and it was Yannick and Tom Davis, who we do some geology work with, and Yannick's a geologist by background.
All right.
And their third partner over there, Jeff, and they all pop up, and much like Yannick's background, they're all in flannels and looking like Southern California guys out in Ventura, and I'm like, all right, I can work with these guys, but Yannick's from Germany, so
thank you. That's where we're going.
I'm setting it all up. He's from Germany. We met on Zoom, and he's a geologist, and really have enjoyed getting to know Yannick because he's got a down-to-earth perspective on what's going on with energy systems and cultures and the whole international spectrum. So I'm stoked. Yannick, thank you for doing this. We appreciate you being here, bro.
Thanks for having me here. Thanks for the kind words.
Yeah. And also for the record out there, I think this is kind of I love having a guest right now. I love having guests on the show, and obviously I think I don't think one segment of a 30-minute conversation with Yannick is going to do us justice. So we were in discussions that we're probably going to have an informal kind of a podcast type conversation, kind of get to know Yannick a little bit more, kind of the background, kind of get to know the mindset of growing up in Germany on the relationship with energy and power, and find out what situation they're in now. And then I think throughout the next segments, we're probably going to dive into that a little bit deeper, or peel the onion, as you would say.
There you go. Yannick, tell us how you got here. When did you come here? Kind of the story behind.
Give us the elevator spiel on kind of your background and kind of who you are.
Who am I? Well, Mike already said a couple of good things. I'm from Germany. I've been in California for 10 years now, so I sometimes can't even tell if I'm still a real German or maybe I morphed into a Californian somehow. I don't know yet, but
dude, you're in a garage. You're literally in a garage with surfboards, the drums, and a guitar. So I can give you the answer.
Just like there's America flag in the background. This guy is not a German.
yeah.
We downloaded the background.
Yeah. You sound like you're from Far East California. You just sound a little different.
It's like the accent is there, but it may be some Far East Californian.
Yeah.
But I got here. I moved here about 10 years ago. I grew up skateboarding and listened to the music that came from Southern California, and I was always influenced by it a lot. So it wasn't really like geology or like energy topics that brought me here, but more like the lifestyle. I love surfing. I grew up skateboarding. I love the outdoors. California provides so much opportunity to enjoy the outsides, and that has, ever since the first time I got here, been like something that got me really hooked to this place. And went to Long Beach State back in 2012, 13, started a master's program at Long Beach State in petroleum geology, spent a couple of years there, met Tom Davis, the guy I know that Mike and I know, the guy that does some work for Mike. And he's been sort of like a mentor geologically with his partner at the time, Jay Namson, that have kind of like helped me to find a path for myself in the industry. Ever since I graduated at Long Beach State, the oil industry in general was kind of already like starting to like go kind of like down the river. So it was complicated at the time to like find jobs in California. I could have gone to Houston, but I decided to stay in California and have been working for a smaller consulting firm called Earth Consultants International ever since. And we do work all over the place, from engineering, geology, hazard assessments, environmental remediation projects, to even energy related projects as well, and have been just trying to live by the beach, surfing, and enjoying life in California as much as I can. Yeah.
Living to work, not working to live. I dig that. Hey, so how did you, I guess, what's your background on kind of like how you, I guess, got into the energy space? Got like what motivated you to, I guess, pursue getting into the energy industry?
That's a good question. I think it was really just geology. When I went to Long Beach State, it was in the first place the geologic component of the energy industry, which means identifying reservoirs, identifying structures that are important to trap oil and gas, all the geologic components that come into play, from source rock to migration routes of petroleum towards the reservoir, the whole like scientific way of a geologic oil and gas system is something that has always been interesting me.
Really?
Most.
Okay.
That really led me gravitating towards the energy industry, most of all because of the geologic components.
The science, in other words. The
science
science drew you in. See that?
Yeah.
We don't talk about it enough in
Yeah.
our industry. The science bringing people in. I love it.
So so coming from Germany, and we're going to get into the Germany, energy policy, kind of the current situation, what's going on over there. Either in this segment, we might touch on that a little bit, and definitely the next segments. Moving to California, obviously you love the lifestyle, you love the beach and all that stuff, and not getting out and moving to Houston or somewhere else that has more of a welcoming energy field. I guess your motivation to stay in California when it seems like it's so difficult to operate as a energy company in California or any realm in the energy space in California. I guess you staying there, it's keeping you there. I'm picking up as your love for the outdoors, the love for the beach, the love for the scenery, everything like that. And so you just say, I'm going to ride this wave. I'm going to ride the wave literally. And
I think that's where Mike and I are in the same boat. It's tough, it's a great place. It became a home, but the industry in general makes it tough for us to continue being successful. And it makes it difficult to become a successful participant in this place because there's a lot of obstacles that need to be overcome in order to have job security, and that will become tougher and tougher with time.
I think there's one thing I want to touch on here because I think it's important. There was a recent consulting report. These consulting reports happen for Sacramento, and they're talking about the jobs of oil field workers in California specifically. And, kind of this myriad of excuses of how we're going to transition these oil field workers out. And there's only, 25,000 of them or whatever. And it depends on if you count gas station workers or just upfield oil and gas. Regardless, the theme of this idea that we're just going to phase you out and you're just going to find other work, it sounds so magical, like we're just going to make it happen, but it really doesn't happen. And what's left is people like Yannick and myself are fighting to stay here because we love this environment. We love energy. We know people need energy and a clean environment. But you're telling us we can't work to make it happen. And so that's kind of just my summary thoughts, from
how, I guess my question for y'all is, so Mike, Yannick, I'm not sure about your social media presence or anything like that, but Michael posts a lot of random, let me just turn this off. Michael posts a lot of random stuff about, how difficult it is to operate in California, how difficult it is to be an energy company. And honestly, I've been saying energy company lately versus oil and gas company because at the end of the day, I think it's good that people are aware that oil and gas is not oil and gas, it's energy. So I've been saying energy. Oh, what kind of energy? Oil and gas. So Mike posts all this stuff about how difficult it is to operate as an energy company, this and that, the challenges, the energy policies. What is keeping both of y'all, I guess, motivated to fight this fight versus, because there's a lot of people that throw their hands up and say, screw it, I'm going to Texas or going to Colorado or Oklahoma. What is keeping y'all, I guess, staying in this fight, especially with the crosshairs on y'all's back?
Right. It's a good question. I think it's a combination of multiple different things. I mean, I've already said that, like the scientific component really interfingers with that, and makes me want to continue or pursuing my profession the way I wanted to do it. And then secondly, of course, you know, the drive of living here and realizing that we need energy in order to flourish as you know, as a community. And I think the more time progresses, the more you realize that a lot of that stuff that is currently happening is also based on uneducation and misinformation that is being spread out. And I think at the end of the day, it's really a philosophical question that needs to be addressed, where I personally think, which I think Mike and I have in common, have the philosophy that we, you know, the more energy we have available, the more we thrive as a community. And I think that is something that needs to be addressed. And yeah, that would be my answer to that.
I have something to add on. You know, I wanted to ask a follow-up to Yannick about the nature of the work in oil and gas that you do as a geologist. And I think a lot of that, if you're not, you know, if you're just my neighbor, your neighbor, anybody's neighbor, you're not thinking about the geologic time and rocks and oil in place and all this stuff. But talk about, what is it like being a geologist in California from the standpoint of the complexity of the science and the structure, maybe the amount of oil we have here, and then, you know, the regulatory oversight, and just how, you know, in a good way, how embedded it is in the operations.
That's a complex question, but I definitely can say
high level.
No, I love it. Yeah, no, I like that. And there's lots to say, especially from the geologic background. I mean, California is a insanely complex geological system. California is very young. We have the San Andreas Fault that trends from Northern California all the way down into the Salton Sea, that has been evolving over the past millions and millions of years, to speak it very generally. And that has led to a lot of tectonic deformation and reorientation of blocks and basins. And there used to be oceans where now there is land, and all that has led to an insane amount of petroleum systems that spans pretty much from Orange County all the way up into Kern County and even Northern California at places. And that is something, for example, that we don't have in Texas. I mean, Texas is much larger. It's a much larger area that is covered. They have a much larger offshore area that is, for example, you know, that has reserves that are, I almost want to say, unlimited compared to California. But the cool thing about California is it's geologically so complex that there is a lot of oil left, that a lot of the big fields have been discovered, but there's so many small little oil pockets still that have yet to be discovered, which makes it, of course, higher risk for firms that are coming into California to invest. But B, it makes it more attractive at the same time, because there's still a lot to discover, and there's still a game to be played here. We have reserves left that are waiting to be discovered, that are waiting to be mapped out, where geologists are frothing basically to get that data on their fingertips and play with it, you know, and map it all out. And unfortunately, it's becoming more and more difficult for operators through the current political situation that has made it very hard for operators, especially smaller operators, that are willing to put in a higher risk to produce in California, or at least explore.
What is the I mean, you just started talking about, you know, high risk for investment in California and all companies coming in and investing in California. What are you guys seeing, I guess, with the current I guess energy, the current policy, the current I guess environment and all that stuff when it comes to investment in y'all's I guess fields? Has that trickled off? Has it always been, I guess, kind of, I'm assuming it's low, because there's people probably looking at it very risky, not just on a return basis, but also kind of what's going to happen in the geopolitical environment, right?
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
How are y'all seeing investment, I guess, in the last 6 months? Is that kind of how has that gone?
I think you have to look at it. I'll take this and kick it over to Jan. I think you have to look at it longer than 6 months. There's been an environmental movement in California for 20 years. So
Right.
I think for 20 years, you've had outside investors looking at California just saying, how would I even operate? If these regulations are always getting tighter, if you're not boots on the ground in California, it's just really hard for you to operate. You have to have intimate knowledge of the regulatory regime, how it's changing, what's happening. But to Yannick's point about, we look at it as an operator. When I tell people we've got a 560 acre lease and we think that there's 50 to 70 million barrels of oil in place, that speaks to what Yannick's saying of, you've got these concentrated pools and complex geology, which has a tremendous amount of opportunity. But the investment is scared because they don't know if they'll be able to access it in a reasonable timeline. Is it going to take me 2 years to get permits or 10 years? And then at a reasonable cost. But that's anyway. Sorry, I don't want to take.
No, absolutely. It's a risk issue essentially. It's a high risk. So, are you willing, as an operator, are you willing to take that high risk? That's the question you have to address when you come to California, because you may have a couple of dry holes, but you may be insanely successful. If you go to a place like Texas, that risk is lowered by orders of magnitudes because there's so much oil. We have so much oil in California, but because of that geologic environment, it's just a much higher risk.
The interesting thing on risk, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but the dry hole cost in California is going to be a fraction of what it is in the Permian because you're shallow. You're typically looking at shallow targets.
Right.
So, okay, let's kind of, if you mind if I pivot this a little bit, because I want to kind of get an understanding about where Yannick's from. And it seems like Germany has been the forefront when it comes to energy policies, whether Mike Umbro has shared the screen. Okay.
Yes.
We're good. Sorry, I didn't know what was going on.
I was going where you're going.
I thought I was boring enough. We all just cut me off. And I was like, okay, well, I'm gonna go grab something to eat. So anyway, it seems to me that Germany has always been kind of the forefront when it comes to energy policies, whether that's the results are good or the results are bad. Can you talk to me about, I guess, growing up in Germany and the conversations around the table? Is energy is that always is that a topic of conversation when you were growing up? And how was that like?
I really appreciate that question. It's a great question that never anybody really has ever asked me, and I don't think I've ever thought about it in that depth. But
well, on Energy Fact Chats, Yannick, we ask the tough questions.
It's great, and I don't think energy has never, growing up, it wasn't a conversation on the table. I grew up at a place that is pretty close to an area where we have a lot of lignite, which is basically brown coal. Essentially, it's
that's in the north, right?
It's in the west.
I meant northwest. Yeah, west.
It's sort of in the northwest, correct. If we have next time, I'll pull up a map. I could show you some of the deposits that I'm talking about here. But long story short, I grew up next to this area where they have a lot of lignite deposits, and a big firm in Germany is around there, where a majority of the community where I grew up worked at. That is something I was always aware of. There's a lignite power plant that turns the lignite into electric energy that always has been around, but it was just there. I knew that this is the power plant and that's where our energy comes from. This is pretty much everything I knew from when I was born until I turned 15 and 16 and started to be a little bit more curious and things like that. But growing up, it was just always as is. Energy was there. There wasn't a conversation on where it comes from. There weren't conversations on climate change or renewables. That all kicked in much later, at least from the information that became available to me. So yeah, growing up there, grew up just accepting energy as something that is available and didn't question it as much. And
seemed. No, I'm sorry to interrupt you. Keep going.
No, and then my transition would be that at some point when I would almost say like when Merkel became president, there was or chancellor, there was this transition that are, you know, like the Paris agreements were started to be signed. We started to have concerns about the climate. All that stuff was starting to pick up by a lot in all over Europe, that the conversation was started about like, are we doing this right? Is climate change happening? All these studies like facilitated a, you know, how should I put this into words? A conversation that didn't stop and was just like getting more and more.
It kept on getting elevated.
It just kept on getting elevated. That's exactly the way I wanted to say it. And then I started realizing, oh, okay, accepting again what the news would tell me. You know, I'm just like one German that just reads news and accepts everything the way it is. And I think that was around like the 2000s to 2010. And
you see it in this chart I pulled up. You know, the conversation starts in the 2000s, and look at what happens to solar specifically.
Right. True.
Yeah. Right.
Well, I mean, so it seems like over the past, you're right, I guess whenever Merkel became chancellor or something like that, but there seems to be like some sort of public perception shift that it wasn't okay, well, let's start bringing new, and we're seeing this over here too. Let's not bring in new energy to the table. Let's get rid of this horrible, evil, bad energy that we don't need. We don't need all this stuff, and embrace this, the renewables, embrace the green technology, embrace this. That's going to bring us to the future. So it seems like the science wasn't behind that marketing or the public perception. It's more of, hey, let's do it this way, and you know, cut off, you know, our life support system pretty much to get there.
Yeah, absolutely. It's the power of the media. It's saying, you know, if you continue burning coal, you're a bad guy. You know, and we don't want to. Nobody wants to be a bad guy.
No.
And that's really like the mindset people were in. And it took me, to be honest, it took me a while to understand that that there's always two sides of the story. You know, on the one hand, I do not want to claim that climate change is something that does not happen. I'm not saying at all that none of that stuff is something that should be ignored. It should be studied, and we should be concerned and worry about these things. But at the same time, we should also be aware what it means to our society from an innovation standpoint, security standpoint, job standpoint, as a species, essentially, what it means for us to have access to energy, and how to communicate that politically as well. And that was, I think, like in the third time, like when I grew, like when I was in my 30s, started to like, my late 20s, early 30s, I started realizing, wait a second, you can't just only think black and white, you know, and that I've learned, especially in the United States. I think that was like one of the main takeaways of being here, is that this is being communicated a little bit less drastically and like black and white style.
I think I'm sorry, go on.
No, and I think that would lead maybe even to your next question, that you know, Germany is like, currently we're not in a good situation in Germany. You know, I like hear stories from my brother who works at a university in Germany, that they are shutting down in wintertime the heater. You know, like the whole building is basically being cold. Students have to sit in the library with their jackets and study, literally like being bundled up, and having no access to like a warm environment. And we're talking about Germany, you know, we're not talking about some third world country here or something like that. It's Germany.
We're talking about practice.
Correct.
So wait, so I'm kind of curious about that, Yannick. And I think, Mike, you and I need to talk. We might send you to Germany on Monday for Energy Facts Chats. Because what I'm very interested about hearing is, you know, you're talking about your brother being going to school professors, but you know, the students studying, they're cold, heat's off, and all that stuff. I'm curious. I'm very curious to see, has that because they're living the situation of lack of abundant energy, has the public conversation changed a little bit where they're not just accepting what the news is telling them, what the politicians are telling them? Has the public perception, has it changed at all? What are conversations happening? How's the conversations happening now?
Yes, that is something I look forward to for this trip that I do in, as part of this podcast right here, to figure that out. And I already know some of the answers. And yes, things are changing. Like people start realizing, oh my God, we are, we can dive into the whole Russia conversation right now, and like talk about how what a bad decision is essentially it was to like make yourself dependent on other nations' import of natural resources, and then have a philosophical discrepancy with those countries. Like, for example, the war in Ukraine right now, we're saying, no, we're not participating in this, let's not do it. And then we're like, oh man, shit, where are we now getting our energy from? And now we are saying, let's build all these LNG terminals and like let's import it from Qatar and like the US, and especially Qatar as a country that is, from a human, like ethically perspective and also environmental perspective, completely not what Germany wants to be in the long run. Like whatever in Germany is not allowed to do, whether it's fracking or like the work conditions on the drilling sites or whatever it would be in Qatar. I'm not an expert on the country of Qatar, and but I'm just claiming that Germany, the monitoring processes and stuff like that are probably a bit more sophisticated, and we could do a pretty good job in Germany with that. But yet we decide to let countries run the show that we have no monitoring on. We have no idea how they do that, and I think that's a conversation that's also really important to have.
So Yannick wants to buy local is my takeaway.
So that's what I'm going to say. So it sounds very much like what's happening in California. It's like, hey, let's ban LA exploration production. Let's not do this. No permits. Let's outsource our energy to other countries that, you're right, that we don't monitor, that might not have the whether it's the environmental practice, the human protection practice, whatever that looks like. It's the whole NIMBY mentality. It's the not in my backyard. Oh, we need it. We love it. We can do it ourselves. But it doesn't really match kind of my message. So let's get this from Venezuela. Let's get this from Qatar. Let's get this from, Saudi Arabia, whatever that is. So it's just, I get it.
Right. Let's talk about this chart I pulled up 20 minutes ago that we.
Oh, I didn't even see this. I didn't even see this chart.
No, because it leads to this conversation you guys have gone down about. Let's get it from XYZ. Why
I can't see the chart, by the way.
Can I see the chart? I'm sure
it's literally right. It's huge.
It's huge. Well, don't worry about it, Yannick.
I can see it.
Okay, there you go. But you guys are asking, let's get it from here or there. The point is, we have to get it, right? And in Germany's case, when I look at this chart, when we all look at this chart, you see you need nuclear, coal, natural gas, wind, biomass, solar, other renewables. You see the growth of renewables over the past 20 years, and this is 2000 to 2018. You see some growth in solar exactly when we're hearing from Yannick that the conversation on the policy was similar to California, like let's decarbonize, let's set these emissions targets. But the fact is, and I think this sets well for Yannick being boots on the ground and talking about Russia, you see this natural gas band that really has remained.
Stays constant,
It stays constant.
It's probably grown a little bit,
Yeah, so I can stop sharing this. We'll get into this more in the next episode. But I just wanted to point out that the need has been there and continues to be there, and it's a data point that everybody knows. It's not a secret. It's not going away.
Right.
But the question is, how are we responding to this?
Absolutely.
Something about that chart that reminds me of, you can actually flip that. You can look at previous years and kind of show how, hydrocarbons are this, and then, the past 10 years, you see renewables kind of make up that. You can actually flip that and kind of look in the future and look at the majority of energy forecasted or energy requirements for future years, whether it's 2040, 2050. you still see the exact same thing. You still see hydrocarbons making up this much. And the thing that's cool, what I think is really cool, is that renewables, they're going to start taking more. So you're still going to need that base load, that chunk of hydrocarbons. And the stuff that's going to fill in the gap will be, hopefully, if the technology gets there, will be the renewables. But then again, that being said, you still need that base load.
Right.
You're not to meet today's demand and the demands of the population that's growing. So I feel like you could flip that. That's my short story.
And JP, tying to what you were addressing earlier, or you were asking me the question about what does it mean to like the people in Germany? Let's like phrase it. How is the vibe there? I think people are slowly but surely starting to realize that being dependent on someone else is really a big risk, and is something that they didn't expect, that it shows the vulnerability you're exposing yourself with. And all of a sudden saying like, no, there's no gas anymore. Like, we got to figure out something else. Right. And all of a sudden a chancellor telling the nation to go and take quicker showers, or like maybe cold showers, and like asking people to help turn the lights off quicker, or like universities need to like shut down the heaters, in order. Then people really start thinking, that's not how I thought this was going to happen, and I think the vibe is changing currently, and I think a lot of people are going to be more interested in educating themselves and being less confused about the whole energy politics and all the misinformation that comes.
And be more accepting of energy versus have a stance to fight on. And I thought it was interesting too. It's actually kind of sad, because when all this stuff was going on a couple of months ago, there was a lot of manufacturing companies in Germany, like, that have been around for like generations, like 150 years or something like that. They had to shut down. And that, to me, it's like, that's first off, that's sad for all those people, but it's like, because of poor policy, these companies that have been around for generations, they have to shut down.
Yeah, it's sad, but at the same time, and I'm a big silver liner, it's exciting at the same time, because it means there's opportunity for a new time. We can start talking again in life. We can all like pull out a story in life where we, did wrong. Like we wish we could go back and like do it better, and I think this is an opportunity for everybody to learn from the mistakes that we've made. And tying Germany with California, which I guess almost could be like the topic of this conversation here, is that Californians have the opportunity to look at a country like Germany that have started this whole transition in elevated rates of conversations into renewables and political change in interests and energy interests and stuff like that. How can we learn from this, and what can we do better, and how can we create a more sustainable future that is not only black and white, but that goes into a direction that is safe, maintain
where energy is not a political point. And
exactly.
I think that's a great point. I love that, because I think after the students are wearing jackets in class and all stuff, you're right. I think it does allow the stage to be cleared and reset for new conversations to happen. I don't think that's going to happen in California. I think California is lagging probably a couple months or a couple years, because y'all's prices on your electricity the consumers are about to start feeling that soon. Very soon.
Think California, we haven't quite had the crisis that Germany's been exposed to with this war, and trying to just cut off 60% of your gas supply coming from Russia, just boom, we're done. That's a massive undertaking. And so we haven't felt it yet, but we're over here celebrating the fact that we're about to be the 4th largest economy in the world in California. Wait for it. Only because Germany has fallen from number 4 because of the disruption to their economy from this energy crisis. So
is that a battlefield promotion?
No, California's out here celebrating like we're doing something good, and the only reason Germany's falling is because their manufacturing and their GDP is getting clobbered by this. And we're about to feel that in a year or two from now. Maybe we'll drop to 6. Who knows? But
Well, that's the thing, though. I think the conversations that might be happening, Yannick, you're gonna do some. We're gonna fly you over there on Monday so you can do some homework for us. And just I'm very curious about the conversations surrounding energy, and I think that'd be kind of cool to kind of get back on and have one or two more episodes with you where we have that conversation, and then we can kind of dive into the natural gas side of things and all that fun stuff, and teach me about it, because I'm very curious about this. I don't even know where this is going. Energy Facts Chats I'm really digging, because there's a lot of stuff that I didn't know. Like last night, I texted Mike. I was looking at the Kaizo, the electric, like what happened to electric. I looked at the ERCOT. Like it's fun. Those tools are fun to look at, and it kind of opens your eyes on how your electricity is being generated. So I'm appreciating all this stuff. So thank both of y'all.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you,
Thanks,
guys.
JP, for having me.
Yeah. And so just to set it up, Yannick, we're going to see you in Germany, and then we'll get a little more technical over the next two recordings, get some of the more faxy stuff out there. But but I think it was great kind of getting to know you a little bit more, kind of getting your background, kind of your outlooks, because as a non-California native, I appreciate that. I love getting different viewpoints, and I think you're going to come back from the trip with a lot of cool conversations. So I'm looking forward to that.
Same here. I really look forward to it. It was fun talking to you guys. It was awesome.
And obviously, you can find Yannick. Do you want to Yannick Wirtz? That's Yannick, and Wirtz. You can find him on LinkedIn. Feel free to touch base with him and say hello, introduce yourself. And I want to thank everyone out there for tuning into Energy Facts Chats with me, JP Warren, and Mike Umbro, and our guest Yannick. And Yannick, we got you first class too, so just let us know.
Excellent. Yeah.
Oh, you're welcome. You're welcome.
I'll have some champagne on the flight.
Please do, in honor of us. It's free. So thank you everyone for tuning in for Energy Facts Chats. We hope we're trying to bridge the energy expectations with energy realities, and we're just trying to have conversations that kind of highlight some issues that may be coming our way to you, the consumers. So thank y'all. Y'all have a great rest of the day, and Yannick, safe travels, and I'm looking forward to talking to you soon.
Thanks, JP. See you guys soon.
See you guys. Take it easy.
Let's do this.